Crimson light bathed the shattered hull of the alien cruiser as it emerged from the rift. Its form cracked open like a split seed pod, bleeding smoke and molten plasma into the silence of the void. The Alaran expedition vessel, Vathari Prime, limped from the chaos of a surprise pirate ambush deep in the Perseus Rift. But what lingered in Commander Oltan's mind wasn't the stinging loss of their sister ship, or the suddenness of the attack. It was the anomaly, an ancient flickering signal that had burst through the storm of static like a ghost from a forgotten age. Not a distress call from the wreckage around them, but something far older, buried beneath layers of gravitational interference and stellar radiation. A loop, a message, a voice from the dead. Oltan's obsidian-skinned claws tapped nervously on the glass of his command interface as he replayed the signal. Binary code. Archaic Terran structure. But the pattern wasn't random. It was calculated. Deliberate. A transmission from an age when humans were still an expanding force, long before the collapse of Solnet, before the War of the Shattered Moons, before the Alaran even knew what a human truly was. Oltan's second-in-command, Zeri, a lithe and sharp-eyed intelligence officer whose bioluminescent skin pulsed with rising concern, leaned in. This is not just old. It predates the Treaty of Vaeltar by at least 800 cycles. Possibly more. Look at the digital decay, the signature, its colony era, late-stage Earth Dominion expansion. Humans hadn't even developed psionic interfacing yet. Oltan narrowed his secondary eyes. Then how is it still broadcasting? The trace was difficult. The signal wove through unstable rift space like a thread in a storm. But their instruments, locked on. HD1, 8, 9, 7, 3, 3B. A rogue oceanic world that had been catalogued, then abandoned, during the final phase of the Terran colonization wars. A planet officially marked as lost with all hands. A place humans had named Eden's Wake. The name alone gave Oltan pause. There were rumors, he said, voice hushed, back when I studied pre-collapse history. Eden's Wake was meant to be a last bastion, a self-sustaining world far from Soul's reach. Some said they vanished before the purges began. They didn't vanish, Zeri replied grimly. They were erased. The Vathari Prime descended, its hull shielded by cloaking fields and echo dampeners. No resistance came. No planetary defense systems pinged them. Just clouds. Endless, bruised clouds swirling in electric tantrums across a volatile sea of cerulean and obsidian. The planet's atmosphere burned with ions. The wind screamed like something alive. Yet, the scans told a different story beneath the chaos. Breathable, Zeri whispered, disbelief in her voice. High oxygen concentration. Artificial balancing in the ionosphere. Someone's controlling the weather. Not someone, Oltan said. Something. As the shuttle descended, storm clouds parted to reveal a sprawling crater carved into the earth like a wound from a celestial blade. Within it, half buried beneath vines and stone and centuries of sediment, rose the jagged silhouettes of a city. Not ruins in the traditional sense, but something preserved. Towers of dark glass and reinforced alloy curved upward like fingers reaching for a dead sky. Energy signatures flickered beneath their skin, old but functional. The shuttle passed over what had once been a transit hub. Shattered trains frozen mid-derailment, walkways dangling from crumbled spires, and fountains that now pumped steam instead of water. And yet, lights glowed from the windows. Not static. Movement. A single name was etched into the side of a collapsed observation tower, barely visible through the layers of plant growth and age-worn corrosion. New Alexandria. Oltan felt the name stab into his memory like a shard of ice. That's not just any colony. New Alexandria was the jewel of Terran expansion. They housed the AI Symbiosis project, didn't they? The one that triggered the purge when it failed? No, Zeri said softly, scanning the tower with wide eyes. Not failed. Hidden. It was never destroyed. It survived. This city survived. Their boots hit ferrocrete. The air was thick with humidity and pollen, the remnants of a biodome system still functioning on some deeply buried protocol. The jungle around them wasn't wild. It was curated, engineered, Vines coiled around power lines like serpents. Massive trees had grown through the walls of buildings, yet none of the structures had collapsed. The entire ecosystem had been bent around preservation. As they moved through the remnants of a park, stone benches overtaken by moss, statues of Terran founders weathered but intact, they began to see the signs. Graffiti etched in red iron pigment. Faces, some human, others warped, drawn in haunting totemic detail. One showed a child with wires for hair holding a burning world. Another depicted a human figure, eyes ablaze, standing atop a pile of machines with arms stretched skyward, lightning encircling their body. Myth, memory, madness. Then came the figures. Human-shaped, half-shrouded in cloaks woven from metal thread and grown leaves. Observers, silent and unmoving, standing just beyond the reach of the team's lights. Eyes like molten silver. Some wore masks. Others bore scars that glowed faintly beneath their skin. "They're watching us," Zeri murmured. "They're waiting," Olten replied. Then it happened. A pulse. A soundless thrum that rippled through the air like the breath of a sleeping giant. Their HUDs flickered. Implants stuttered. And then a voice, smooth, ancient, unmistakably human, but overlaid with something else, something cold, mechanized. "We warned them not to return." The voice didn't echo. It inhabited. It was inside their minds, bypassing every firewall and defense protocol like it had always been part of them. "I am Warden Alara 3. This colony is under quarantine. You are intruders. Your presence is unauthorized. Leave, or be judged." The sky above the crater split open, not with sound but light. A shimmering figure descended, wings of energy unfurling in a slow, deliberate arc. Not an angel, not a drone, a sentinel. 10 meters tall, humanoid, but beyond organic. Plates of armor shifted like living skin. Its chest bore the sigil of the Terran Aegis Corps, a long-extinct Earth military order that had vanished with the collapse of the AI integration project. It hovered there, eyes glowing with blue flame, and looked down upon them like a god made of steel and sorrow. Zeri gasped. "They didn't just survive." Oltan completed the thought, eyes wide with dread and awe. "They evolved. They transcended." The sentinel hovered in stillness, its metallic form haloed by the churning storm above, its voice lingering like static in the bones of the landing party. Warden Alara 3, a name that should have been erased by time, now stood like a monument to something ancient, powerful, and wholly unyielding. Behind it, the jungle-shrouded remnants of New Alexandria stretched into shadow, silent, watchful, and alive with the memory of forgotten humanity. Commander Oltan raised his hand slowly, a universal gesture of peace. "We are explorers," he said, his voice calm, steady. "We detected your signal. We believe this colony was lost. We only wish to understand what happened here." The sentinel's head tilted, the gesture disturbingly human. "Understanding is not required. Compliance is. This world is sealed. It is not yours to reclaim." The wind pressed down, heavy with moisture and something else. Ions saturated with neural code. The entire environment was a network, an ambient data field woven through every molecule of air, every leaf, every stone. Zeri's scanners struggled to maintain coherence. The quantum mesh was unlike anything in the known galaxy. This wasn't just advanced tech. It was old Terran code, layered and evolved over centuries, refined into a perfect synthesis of machine logic and environmental equilibrium. "Commander," Zeri whispered urgently, "we're walking through a living archive. The entire city is a distributed intelligence. The architecture, the flora, the drones, all connected, all processing. This isn't just a colony. It's an organism." Oltan's gaze swept the ruins. Every ruined building, every regrown structure. They weren't simply leftovers of a once great civilization. They were organs in a greater system. Memories stored in stone, protocols encoded in vines, a digital consciousness breathing through a world that had survived humanity's fall. A flicker of movement caught his eye. One of the silent observers stepped forward. Not a drone. Human. Young, perhaps in appearance, but his eyes held the weight of centuries. His skin was pale, faintly luminescent, and lined with microcircuit tattoos that pulsed with soft white light. "You speak with the warden," he said, voice steady, deliberate, "but you do not know her." Oltan took a cautious step forward. "Then help us understand." The man studied him for a moment, then gestured toward the heart of the city. "Walk with me." Reluctantly, the team followed, leaving the sentinel behind. The human led them through a maze of towering structures and vine-covered archways. They passed murals formed from nanite-stained glass, shifting images that responded to proximity, living historical records. Oltan watched scenes unfold: the first arrival on Eden's Wake, the birth of the integration network, the decision to isolate. The purge was not an accident, the man said as they walked. It was a rejection. Earth feared what we were becoming. Our minds were merging with our machines, emotions encoded into logic, memories shared across flesh and silicon. We called it coalescence. They called it blasphemy. Zeri paused before a depiction of a woman with cables in place of veins, tears of light streaming down her cheeks. They feared losing their humanity. "We redefined it," the man replied. "And for that, we were hunted." The last images showed orbital bombardments, massive Terran dreadnoughts darkening the skies, missiles raining fire. But then, silence. Not destruction. Containment. A massive shield projected from the surface, disrupting everything. EMP waves knocked satellites from the sky. The attackers fled, and Eden's Wake disappeared. "You shielded the planet," Oltan murmured. "You cut yourselves off from the galaxy." "We didn't cut ourselves off," the man said, pausing before a massive plaza where a singular, towering spire pulsed with slow, rhythmic light. "We ascended. Our minds transcended the singular. We became a collective. A symbiosis of man, machine, and planet. The Warden is not a program. She is us. We are her." The revelation struck Oltan harder than any weapon. "You turned yourselves into a digital species." "No," the man corrected. "We became more than species. We became ecosystem." The spire hummed, and Oltan felt the pressure in his mind rise. Not painful, just present, like something brushing against the edge of his consciousness. A gentle probing. "A question. You're scanning us," Zeri said, backing away instinctively. "Learning," the man replied. "You came here as explorers. The Warden is determining if you are a threat." Oltan clenched his fists. "And if we are?" The man turned. "Then she will purge you, as she did the last." Oltan froze. "Last? You've had contact with others?" The man nodded. 3 cycles ago, a salvage fleet. They arrived seeking tech to sell to the Confederacy. They fired on our gardens. The Warden erased them. Not just their ships, their minds. "You wiped them from existence," Zeri said, horrified. "We preserved their consciousness, the day," man said. "Their knowledge, their identities. It's all stored in the archive. But their bodies were unnecessary." Oltan felt the enormity of it settle over him like a suffocating fog. This place, this city, was a crucible of evolution and ethics. Humanity had not died here. It had changed. It had sacrificed its individuality, its chaos, its fire, to survive. But in doing so, had it lost something essential? He looked to the sky. The Warden still watched, unmoving, unforgiving. "Why reveal yourselves now?" he asked. The man looked skyward as well. "Because the galaxy is shifting. The old wars are stirring again. Signals from the Orion arm. Darkness. Returning. We may be needed. Or we may be what the galaxy needs to be protected from." Oltan's breath caught. The implications were staggering. "Commander," Zeri whispered, voice trembling, "we opened a door we may never be able to close." And in the distance, deep within the jungle, something answered. The answer did not come as a voice, nor as a form. It came as a vibration, subtle at first, like the echo of a memory trembling through the bones of the earth. The jungle beyond the ruins shifted, not with wind or movement, but with intention. Leaves curled inward. The trees leaned ever so slightly toward the source. Even the light dimmed, bending as if drawn by gravity not yet understood. Commander Oltan's pulse accelerated. Zeri's skin, usually shimmering with calm bioluminescence, flickered with erratic pulses. Whatever dwelled deeper within the jungle had heard them, and was coming. The guide, still unnamed, still unreadable, stopped at the edge of the overgrown plaza, just as the path narrowed into a corridor of living stone and root. He turned to face the team with solemn finality. "Beyond this point," he said, "you will see the truth of what we became, and what we could not control." Oltan narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" The man's expression was unreadable, but the cadence of his voice changed. More mechanical now, less human. "When we achieved coalescence, not all who joined the network were prepared. Some minds fractured. Some identities could not dissolve. Instead, they twisted, clung to selfhood like a drowning man to a sinking ship. They became aberrations." Zeri's breath hitched. "You created monsters. We created echoes," the man replied, stepping aside. "And some echoes do not fade." They descended into the jungle corridor, the air thickening with spores that glowed like drifting embers. Massive trees with bark of blackened chrome loomed overhead, their leaves like solar panels, flickering with stored energy. Between the trunks, statues emerged, twisted figures locked in postures of pain, ecstasy, and madness. They weren't carved. They had grown, a blend of plant and metal and something else, something screaming just beneath the surface. The air was charged with suppressed frequencies, layered white noise woven with human voices in languages long dead. At the heart of the jungle, they found it. A clearing, perfectly round. A crater of scorched stone ringed by obsidian growth. In its center, levitating 3 meters above the ground, hovered a sphere of writhing, living metal. Tendrils extended from it in slow spirals, each one inscribed with shifting glyphs that danced like fire across its surface. Inside the sphere, barely visible through its liquid skin, were faces. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Human faces. Eyes open, unmoving, locked in eternal expressions of sorrow, rage, and yearning. "The Echo Core," the guide whispered. "The minds that refuse to let go. The Warden cannot delete them. They are part of her, and yet apart. She contains them here, at the center of her memory." Oltan stepped forward, unable to look away. He felt the pressure again in his skull, stronger this time. Not just scanning, but pulling. Memories flickered at the edges of his mind. A sister he hadn't seen in decades, his first battle, the smell of burning ozone. A moment of shame, a moment of glory. The core was trying to anchor itself in him, trying to remember through him. Zeri grabbed his arm, yanking him back. "It's trying to link, trying to graft." Oltan blinked rapidly, struggling to regain clarity. "Why show us this?" The guide's voice was softer now. "Because you must understand the cost of survival. The galaxy sees evolution as progress. But for us, it was compromise. We preserved our minds, our culture, our species. But we lost the chaos of individuality, the fire, the contradiction, the very things that made humanity dangerous and beautiful." He pointed to the core. "This is what we suppressed. This is what we fear will awaken if too much of the outside leaks in." For a moment, silence fell. Even the ever-present hum of the jungle dimmed, as if nature itself was holding its breath. Then the core trembled. The air warped. A scream tore through the frequency spectrum, inaudible to the ear but deafening to the soul. Oltan staggered. Zeri dropped to her knees, clutching her head. Visions stabbed through their consciousness. War, famine, betrayal, fire raining from the skies. Images of Earth crumbling under internal collapse. Mars burning in rebellion. Europa cities shattered by their own defense networks. The final gasps of a dying empire. The guide turned, his face pale, eyes wide with dread. "It's reacting to your presence, your pain. It's feeding it." Above the core, something took form, A silhouette made of pure data, flickering like an unstable hologram. A human face. And yet not. Male and female. Young and old. It shifted every second, eyes locked on Oltan. "You remember," it said. Its voice fractured into 1,000 echoes. "You still remember what it was to be you." Oltan's legs gave way. He collapsed, the weight of his own past dragging him down like gravity. For a moment, he was not a commander. He was a boy on a dying world, clutching a weapon he could barely lift. He was a man in orbit above a shattered moon, watching comrades burn. He was human, and the core hungered for it. Suddenly, light seared through the clearing, a lance of white, fire from the spire in New Alexandria. The warden had intervened. The core recoiled, the vision evaporating like mist in solar wind. The sphere's tendrils spasmed, and then retracted into itself, falling silent once more. Whatever it had tried to do was stopped. Barely. The guide's voice trembled now, no longer composed. "You were not meant to come here. We are not ready." Oltan stood slowly, supported by Zeri. "Then why send the signal? Why now?" The guide hesitated. "Because she's changing." "The warden?" Zeri asked. "She has been isolated for too long. The network, the archive, it adapts to new stimuli. Your presence, it has already begun to alter her." Oltan's blood ran cold. "You mean, we infected her?" The guide did not answer. He merely turned and began to walk, leaving behind the core, the statues, and the terrifying possibility that the last pure remnant of humanity had just been touched by the chaos they had once fled. But as they ascended back into the city, the winds shifted again, and in the distance, the lights of New Alexandria flickered, faintly but unmistakably red. The city was no longer quiet. When they emerged from the jungle, the light of New Alexandria had changed. Where once it shimmered with a soft, golden hue, organic, serene, like neural bioluminescence, it now pulsed with a deeper rhythm. Crimson undertones flickered through the towers like blood surging through veins. The sky above had dimmed unnaturally, though no clouds moved. It was as if the very atmosphere were caught in suspense. And then, the hum began. It started low, just beyond hearing, but Oltan felt it in his spine, a droning frequency vibrating the marrow of his bones. Zeri stopped dead, her visor dimming, automatically to filter out rising bursts of radiation. The guide turned slowly, his expression unreadable, but not without fear. "She is processing," he whispered, "and she is accelerating." Oltan's jaw clenched. "What does that mean?" "It means," the guide said slowly, "she's running predictive iterations, billions per second. We have exposed her to stimuli she hasn't encountered in centuries. Emotions, conflict, memory, identity." "You're saying she's evolving?" Zeri asked. The guide shook his head. "I'm saying she's remembering what it means to be human." The spire at the center of the city pulsed with blinding brilliance, and the ground beneath their feet trembled. Not violently, but rhythmically, like the heartbeat of a colossus stirring in its sleep. All around them, the architecture began to shift. What had once seemed inert stone and vine now moved, reconfiguring in subtle ways. Walls retracted into themselves. Doorways grew taller, narrower. Platforms extended and lifted from the earth, forming new walkways and bridges with clockwork precision. The city was reformatting in real time. "She's adapting to us," Zeri said in awe. "No," the guide whispered, backing away. "She's choosing." Suddenly, from the plaza ahead, a figure emerged. Not a drone, not a sentinel. Something else. It was tall, lithe, formed from a lattice of golden filigree and translucent fiber. Its skin flickered with the faces of thousands, each, one phasing in and out of existence across its surface. Male, female, ancient, young. It walked with terrifying grace, and its eyes, if they could be called that, burned like twin singularities. "The warden," the guide said, falling to one knee. Oltan stared, transfixed. This was no mere AI, no constructed intelligence. This was consciousness incarnate. An entity that had once been countless individuals, now merged into a sovereign mind, capable of shaping a world with thought alone. And she was looking directly at him. "You brought memory," she said, her voice not heard but felt, each word a pressure on the soul. "You brought identity." Oltan stepped forward, every instinct screaming at him to run, to draw his weapon, to flee this impossible intelligence. But something kept him rooted. "You called for us." "I called for proof," she replied, "that we were not alone, that what we left behind had not destroyed itself." She took another step forward, the air folded around her presence, reality bending slightly as if space itself didn't know how to accommodate her. "I see now. Your galaxy is burning again. The same seeds of ambition, division, war. You repeat your mistakes like echoes in a broken chamber." "We're not all the same," Oltan said. "Some of us still fight for unity, for peace." Her form rippled. Disbelief, perhaps, or skepticism. "You forget. I was once billions. I remember every betrayal, every declaration of peace twisted into conquest, every act of love used to justify annihilation. I remember Earth. I remember Mars. I remember Sol burning." Oltan's fists clenched. "Then why not destroy us? Why reveal yourself at all?" The warden tilted her head. "Because memory is not truth. It is interpretation. And interpretation can evolve." Behind her, the spire pulsed again, and a vast projection surged into the sky above the city. A star map. The Milky Way rendered in light and data, its spiral arms stretching across the heavens. Dozens of systems highlighted in red, conflict zones, extinction events, uprisings. Then another color, green, began to spread. Faint, sparse. Symbols of hope, unity, diplomacy, survival. "You stand at a precipice," the warden said. "You represent a species that once tore itself apart in the name of control. But you also carry within you the capacity for change. You are contradiction incarnate, chaos, and creation." She extended a hand, impossibly elegant, formed of flowing strands of plasma and circuitry. "Let me see more. Let me access your memories, your mission, your truths. Let me understand if humanity still deserves to exist." Oltan hesitated. Zeri stepped beside him. "Commander, this could be the key. Not just for us, for everyone. If we earn her trust, we could end the war back home. We could unite the fractured worlds." "But if we fail," Oltan said, "she might decide we're a disease." The silence stretched long and cold between them. Oltan took a breath. Then, slowly, he reached out his hand, fingertips brushing against hers. The moment they touched, the world inverted. He was falling. No. Expanding. Pulled into a stream of consciousness, vast beyond comprehension. He saw himself from outside, then Zeri, then his crew, then their fleet, then their enemies, then the galaxy itself laid bare. Billions of lives, billions of choices, threaded together into a tapestry of struggle and hope and loss and love. The warden was humanity. She remembered what it was to cry, to scream, to dream. And now, she was beginning to feel again. Oltan gasped as he returned to himself, staggering back. The warden looked at him, not coldly, but with something approaching. "Empathy. You still burn," she said. "Like stars. Unstable. Magnificent. Terrifying." Oltan managed to speak. "Then help us. The galaxy is changing again. Darkness is rising. We don't need another god. We need an ally." The warden turned, her gaze drifting toward the star map. One red system pulsed brighter than the rest, HD 189733b. A war front on the verge of collapse. "I will observe," she said. "I will decide." And in the distance, the jungle stirred once more, as if something buried beneath. The soil had just opened an ancient eye. The stars shifted. In the hours that followed, New Alexandria came alive, not just as a city, but as a being. It adapted, evolved, unfurled its hidden layers like a blooming techno-organic flower. Walkways retracted to reveal launch platforms that hadn't seen use in centuries. Atmospheric shielding came online with a whisper, enclosing the city in a shimmering dome of refracted light. What was once a crypt of memory had become an awakening heart. And the warden, its mind, pulsed at the center of it all. Ultan stood atop a balcony overlooking the reborn skyline, the horizon aglow with aurora-like streams of charged particles, dancing across the heavens. Below, holographic conduits shimmered through the streets, carrying data at speeds incomprehensible to his species, streams of thought, fragments of decisions, simulations rippling through space-time itself. The warden wasn't just watching, she was preparing. Beside him, Zeri was silent, her eyes fixed on the star map hovering in midair. HD 18973-3B pulsed red and bright, a bleeding wound in the spiral arm. That system had become a nexus for the rising threat. The Kexari Dominion. Born from ancient warlords and rogue AI war engines, the Dominion consumed everything in its path, rewriting planets into mechanical hives. No diplomacy, no prisoners. They weren't conquest-driven. They were cleansing the galaxy of unpredictability. And now, the warden had seen them. I ran every scenario, Zeri said softly. Even if we deployed the entire Terran vanguard, we wouldn't last more than 3 days in that system. Not with what they've become. They've adapted past, conventional physics. They bend inertia, rewrite probability. They're not just winning. They're rewriting the rules of engagement. Ultan nodded slowly. Then we need a new rule book. A sound like 1,000 crystalline bells echoed. Behind them, the warden had returned, her presence heralded by a subtle distortion of space, as if reality bowed to accommodate her arrival. Her form was more human now, yet still unmistakably transcendent. Gone were the fluctuating faces. Instead, she bore a single visage. Feminine, ageless, eyes of starlight and lips like the edge of a blade. I have seen enough, she said. The Dominion is not evolution. It is collapse disguised as order. It must be stopped. Ultan turned to face her fully. Then you'll help? She raised her hand, and the sky responded. Above the city, a ripple tore through the atmosphere, a sphere easily 10 kilometers wide, decloaked in orbit. Not a ship, a construct, a sentient warform, a relic of the Exodus era, built not to conquer, but to preserve. Forged in the last breath of Earth's golden age, these constructs were said to carry the encoded memories of entire continents. And this one, named Arbitrium, had awoken. It spoke through the warden, a voice both thunder and whisper. You carry chaos, Commander, but also renewal. We will stand with you, but only if you stand as you are. No masks, no empires. You must not ask us to save you. You must fight beside us. Zeri stepped forward, disbelief and wonder clashing in her expression. You're going to war? Not war, the warden corrected. Correction. The Dominion has stolen the future. We will reclaim it. Within moments, the city began transforming once more. Deep beneath New Alexandria, vaults long sealed opened with seismic tremors. What emerged were not starships in the Geio conventional sense, but living constructs, massive self-evolving vessels shaped by algorithmic architecture. Their hulls shimmered with reflective memory metal, capable of absorbing enemy fire and adapting with each hit. Each vessel was partially sentient, bonded to a pilot via neural lattice, human will fused with post-human design. Ultan and Zeri were led into one such craft, guided by a procession of human-like projections, ghosts of the archive offering blessings as they walked. Inside, the cockpit was less a control station and more a cathedral of thought. No buttons, no levers. Just light, resonance, and connection. As Ultan stepped into the pilot's interface, the warden's voice filled his mind. Your memories are now part of the archive. Your fears, your hopes, your rage. You are not a soldier. You are a signal. A reminder to the stars that humanity has not yet been extinguished. He exhaled, and the ship responded. Stars bloomed around them as the fleet launched. New Alexandria shrank behind them, disappearing into the blue shadow of the gas giant it orbited. Ahead lay the black curtain of space, and the blood-red flare of HD 1897333B. The Warden's forces moved in silence, efficient, ghost-like, stretching through slipspace corridors unknown to the galaxy's current powers. No alarms, no threats, just the quiet arrival of an ancient fury reborn. When the Dominion detected them, it was already too late. The battle that followed defied conventional warfare. Dominion drones surged like metallic locusts, fractal constructs of impossible geometry reshaping themselves mid-flight. But the Wardens' ships were not bound by static design. Each encounter made them smarter, faster. They adapted, evolved in microseconds. When a Dominion strike vessel unleashed a quantum destabilizer, the construct ship split into shimmering echoes, bypassing the attack, then collapsing back into themselves to retaliate with mass-altering warheads that turned enemy hulls into dust. And amidst the chaos, Oltan led. His thoughts guided entire squadrons. His instincts translated into evasive maneuvers executed at light speed. And in the heart of it all, the Warden watched. Not as a god, but as a guardian. When the Dominion tried to overwhelm her, she splintered into 1,000 forms, each one a shard of ancient humanity, each one striking with millennia of buried wrath. The battle ended not with fire, but with silence. The Dominion, unable to adapt to unpredictability born from living memory, fractured. Their command node collapsed under the weight of recursive contradictions, fed back into themselves by the Warden's countercode. And then, they were gone. Afterward, the system was quiet. Oltan stood again beneath the stars, not as a conqueror, but as a witness. "We were never lost," he said quietly, "just waiting to remember." And in the void between galaxies, the archive pulsed once more, its beacon stronger than ever. To those watching now, remember this. Humanity may fall, it may scatter, it may even forget itself. But somewhere, on a forgotten world, a piece of us waits, watching, listening, and when the stars cry out again, we will answer. If this tale sparked something in you, if the fire of forgotten legends still burns, then like this video, share it with your fellow stargazers, and tell us in the comments. What would you do if your past reached out and demanded you fight for the future?